Welcome everybody to Funeral Nation episode 228. That is Jeff, the Funeral Commander Harbison. I am Ryan Thogmartin, and this is the funeral profession's only weekly news show. It's good to be back with you, sir. We're still in the same city, but still haven't connected yet.
Yeah, well, we connected maybe a little bit through golf.
We did.
But it wasn't where we can just run out. I mean, both of us are busy as all get out, and
That's right.
Life is going on, obviously. And speaking of life, you know, the fuel for this engine is called C&J Financial. My team, most of them are out this week in conventions, which we've done a lot of that here recently, and finding that we believe that the convention mode is back based on the attendance. But anyway, at C&J Financial, we have the fastest claim process in the business. Quick claim, nobody's quicker. And so let's go ahead and run our video.
We may be the largest insurance assignment company in the funeral profession, but that doesn't mean we've lost touch with our roots. Here in Rainbow City, Alabama, our priorities still come down to a welcoming smile and a handshake that says we keep our promises. With all the tools and technologies that assure blazing fast turnaround, what really matters is much more old school. Personal responsibility, integrity, relationships, and the pride that comes from hearing yet another client say, "You came through for us when it mattered." C&J eliminates the challenges that funeral homes have in processing insurance death claims. If cash flow is vital to your business, welcome home.
All right, so Ryan, this is interesting times that we're going through. That, you know, we're seeing maybe a little bit of dip in the death space where maybe things are leveling off a little bit, and you know, we're always waiting. That's my general consensus I hear out on the road. But we also are experiencing times where we're discussing social things that maybe we hadn't dealt with in the past. You had a wonderful article this month or this week in Connecting Directors about Pride Month. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an appropriate conversation that we should have now that I believe the funeral industry is a nexus and a place for everyone, especially those who are serving. And it's even a larger space for anyone who passes. So, mm-hmm. Ryan, you want to chat about that a little bit because you guys posted it up?
Yeah. We shared that piece of content through a content partnership we have with Parting Stone, and it's a topic that's been avoided for a long time. Like we don't see content like this on the regular in the space because of you don't know what the feedback's going to be. When the audience is funeral professionals and you need them to read, are you going to irritate? And it's a very conservative profession. That's not a secret. We know that. So, I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. And what does it look like for the death care space to be inclusive? We're supposed to serve everybody, but at the same time, you know, we all have our own freedoms to believe the way that we believe, and you know, it's the way that I look at it is this. I'm called to love and not pass judgment. That's it. I'm called to love you. I don't have to agree with your lifestyle, and you don't have to agree with my lifestyle. And however, but we are. I'm called to love and show respect and treat people kind.
You know what? That's the message. I mean, I put up my hand and took an oath to defend our way of life here. And our way of life includes whatever makes you happy, right? Whatever you want to do, you can love who you want to love. And also the freedom of religion to believe the way that you want to, mm-hmm. right? So I sit squarely where you do. You know what? Be happy. This is America. It's a wonderful place to be. Our profession, I think, is changing, obviously, where the courts, actually, there was a case a couple of years ago, I believe, where the courts mandated that you can't discriminate against transgender people working at your funeral home. And I really don't think the heart of our business wants to, right? We're just basically looking for people who want to serve other people who are grieving, and we need to be open and inclusive for that day when that family needs us, no matter what they think, no matter where they come from. If we all have some sort of, I'm just going to call it prejudices or thoughts one way or the other, those have to be put aside to serve. And frankly, that's the bottom line. That's the way it is. And you can either fight it, which I don't suggest, or you can embrace, because if you really look at the foundation of what we're doing, you should be embracing, bottom line. So enough about that. Let's go on to our guest, Clarie McCarthy. She is the CEO of Modern Grief, and she has created what I believe is one of the smartest things we have in the business, where people who are grieving now have a different way of communicating with their grief counselors. So let's go ahead and roll that interview. Welcome, Clarie McCarthy. I found out that the three of us are here in the Phoenix metro area, y'all over there in Scottsdale on the cooler part of town where it's only 115, it's 117 over here on North Mountain. But anyway, Clarie, you're the founder of and CEO of Modern Grief. Will you introduce yourselves to the Funeral Nation and a little bit about your company and services?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you guys both for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on to Funeral Nation and chat with you. So thank you very much. I've been a grief counselor now for almost 10 years. I got into the work like most people do by a tragedy that was, personally affected my life dramatically. And really through the whole process realized that things could be done better. They could be done different. We needed to sort of support folks differently that were grieving. And, that came from working with my own therapist, who was a great therapist, but had no experience with folks that were grieving specifically. And I really felt like, if you are dealing with the loss of a loved one, you really need someone who can navigate that with you. And so that's kind of started my process. My daughter died in 2008, which was sort of the trigger for all of this. And by about 2010, I started mentoring other families, bereaved families, folks that had lost a child or gone through a miscarriage. And that led to becoming a grief recovery specialist, a grief and loss coach, dedicated my life to thanatology, and just sort of grew Modern Grief from me, doing speaking engagements and doing counseling and group sessions to growing it into what we call a boutique practice where we only offer grief counseling. And, now with COVID, we were forced to pivot a little. We were already online, we were providing video counseling and as well as audio, but we're now also offering text-based. And we found that is huge. We weren't really sure. We had put the feelers out there. We had a lot of clients that had requested it. But nowadays, it's where people want to be. They want to be able to just text with their counselor and check in and get some insight and some guidance without having to wait for an appointment or have to go to an office or try and fit into someone's schedule.
Right. And so, it's interesting listening here. I lost my son last year, so you and I have much in common there.
Yes, I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, sorry. The same thing for your daughter. But it's interesting because really grief hasn't changed, but the method how we communicate has. And that's really your message there, I believe, because again, people, still are quarantined, they're traveling, they're doing things. And so, if someone is having a meltdown on vacation, or when I say a meltdown, I didn't mean that in a negative sense, but they're actually feeling the grief. I'll tell you, I have the meltdown sometimes. I'm fine, all of a sudden, it goes away.
Yeah.
That you have the ability to make that text message, or call or Zoom. Whereas, before you say, well, I don't have an appointment for another 2 weeks. You can't get here in the office. So I think this is an outstanding opportunity for funeral homes and to share with their families.
Yeah, I mean, we have such a huge respect and admiration for the funeral professionals. We feel that they are the first line of defense, right? They're the first introduction that the families are getting. By the time they come to us, they've usually been through a funeral service or memorial or some time of, and so by the time they get to us, it's been maybe a few weeks or a few months. And so, it's the funeral homes that are able to, make sure that their families realize that there's resources available and that it's very important that they take advantage of them. I tell people it's been 13 years since my daughter died. And just like you, I can still get blindsided by it. It can be a song, it could be an event, it could be something that just pops into my head. And it is long lasting. And so, the funeral homes are the best, I say boots on the ground for being a support to families.
Yeah, so I look at the last year and families that didn't get the ability to have a gathering and get the closure that they needed. Grief is really the next pandemic. So how has that shaped what you offer and how you're connecting with families? It's social, right?
Well, yeah. So we had been offering video and audio sessions for years. And then in response to COVID-19, we realized that there were more people that needed our assistance. And we looked at text-based counseling, where you become a member, you pay a flat fee, and then you get your access to your counselor. And the way that we positioned that and the way that I don't want to say pivot, because it was just a different delivery method.
Sure.
Is that, COVID, it kept us isolated. It kept us fearful. There were folks that weren't able to grieve in what we would consider a normal a way of, like you said, either a funeral or a memorial, or having the ability to gather with family. Now, we know that there's been a huge amount of progress made in videos and live stream and things like that, which they work. It's better than nothing. We do definitely encourage that, but we had to move quickly, and death and grief, considering the fact that it's been here forever, so many times we get stuck in the way things were being done versus what do the customers need, what do they want, and how can we best serve them.
I agree. And I think this is something awesome. That's where we connected through social media on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really cool. And next thing you know, here you are in Funeral Nation.
Here I am.
Yeah. And certainly, we want to put your contact information up here and see if we can help with your efforts, which ultimately in our business is serving the families. I mean, that's all it is about. I personally don't think that funeral professionals have the capabilities of dealing with grief. They're not licensed, they're not trained, etc. So our job is to pass it on to someone who is. But anyway,
yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, we like I said, the funeral professionals obviously are quite skilled in handling and working with families and individuals. However, is that the best use of their time and their efforts? And is that something that they want to take on? Because it's not a one and done sort of situation. If you were to be successful at having this in your home, you would need someone who is on staff full-time, or to be able to refer out. And it just depends on budgeting and skill set. I am of the notion that while funeral professionals are extremely skilled in working with families, it takes a different skill set to do grief counseling, and that those are things that they need to be separated. And I know that's not always a popular opinion. I know we were speaking about that before we started recording. We're here to help. We're not here to step on toes or tell folks what they can and can't do. We ultimately all want to just support a family and individuals that are grieving a loss. And it's just who's best suited and who has the skill set and the abilities to do that.
Right. And the training, right? Because this isn't something that you just go out and do.
Yep.
Well, Claire, founder and CEO of Modern Grief, we certainly
I
are
added
glad.
that.
Yeah, I've got it here.
No, the
I've got
funny
it because
thing
I'll
is
probably
that
forget before this is over with. I'll call it the wrong thing. But it's something that's really smart. I see with smartphones and the use. So I think you're right on time with this at a timely. In a time when we need this desperately.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all on our phones. They're all in our hands almost all day, every day. We're doing business. We're doing personal family events. You click to talk. I mean, it's very, I think that we should all, whatever industry we're in, we should be taking advantage of that and realizing that that's primarily where our clientele and our customers are, and leveraging that. I mean, we were able to move and quite quickly through COVID. It did not have a huge effect on our practice. It did affect some of my speaking, travel and things like that, workshops we were going to do. But, there's no reason that the funeral professionals can't move forward with technology and social media and, having this quick access. That's where your customers are. That's what your customers want. And they want to be able to do that. And so, it's those organizations and those brands that can do that quickly and see the value in that will survive.
Agreed. And we saw last year that last 15 months, our industry was forced into it, and it's been successful for the most part.
Sure.
Anyway, thank you for coming on. We look forward to hearing back from you. And again, we'll have the information up so people can reach out to you. But in my view of someone who understands and feels grief, I've been on the other side also as a funeral professional. I think this is a wonderful service of Modern Grief.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Claire.
Take care.
All right. You guys too. Bye now.
Good stuff. It is to see the way that even grief has shifted and been affected over the last 15 months. I love the stance that she's taking. She said pivot, and it really wasn't a big pivot, but they've been able to embrace how people need to grieve and communicate around that. And I really believe, isn't that the job of business owners? If we're going to look at funeral homes specifically, to embrace the way that families need to communicate and need things done, and create opportunities for families to be able to fully grieve and to be able to serve families the way that they need to be served.
I agree. So, bottom line is our oath, and it is to serve families. Here is another opportunity to serve families and allow people who are trained and professionally aligned in order to help them. I think we mean well sometimes, but we're not necessarily grief counselors. I believe that.
That's right.
My personal belief is it should be done through professionals. But anyway, Ryan, we're finishing up 228 here. 229 may be pretty interesting just from proximity next week. We'll see how that goes. And bottom line is, how do you like us out here in Phoenix at 118?
You know what? It's okay. It's a dry heat. It really is a dry heat. It's hot, but it's a dry heat, and it's.
I know, it's crazy. The dry heat's turned some of my hair white. I don't get it.
Yeah, it looks good. You wear it well.
Thank you, sir. Well, look, we'll connect up next week, and thanks again for all you're doing with our profession.
Absolutely. Same to you. Until next time, have a great effing week.
Out here.
Get your ass up,